The first 24 months of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration represents one of the most consequential periods in Nigeria's recent political history. With significant economic challenges on assuming office, Tinubu immediately implemented bold and in most cases controversial reforms to reshape Nigeria's economic landscape. One of the administration's early decisions was the removal of fuel subsidies, sending shockwaves through the economy. The other was floating of the naira to address currency disruptions. Regrettably, this contribution to increase instability has eroded consumption and consumer purchasing power. These economic reforms may be considered necessary for long-term recovery, but they are far from outweighing their immediate painful consequences. The promises of increased foreign investment, reduced corruption, and fiscal stability remain largely aspirational rather than realized. On governance, the administration has shown a mixed record while exhibiting technocratic tendencies in some policy areas. Policy considerations and entrenched corruption continue to slowly govern. I'm Hadiza Malumfashi. Welcome to the PAP Show. Today, I welcome a key figure in the ruling party and the founder of the All Progressive Youth Wing, a senior special assistant to former President Muhammadu Buhari. He is also a one-time youth leader of the APC and most recently a member of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's Presidential Campaign Council. My guest represents an emerging generation of Nigerian political leaders combining professional credentials with practical political experience. He joins us as we review the Tinubu administration after 2 years in office. Barrister Ismail Ahmad, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here today.
Thank you for having us. So I will just briefly start. Let's start with the power sector. Halfway into the renewed hope agenda, we were promised initially 15,000 megawatts of electricity. It's been halfway now, and then we haven't met up to half. 1/3 even of that. We are currently, as it states, 5,313 megawatts as at recorded this December. Would you consider this verdict a failure?
Well, no, not really. So I like to look at it from a perspective of reality, right? Political pundits and experienced political players all across the world have said that you campaign in poetry and you govern in prose. What that means is that the realities of campaign promises dawn on you when you are in the government seat. So the view changes from the driver's side from the passenger side to the driver's side. A promise that was made during campaign is a work in progress. It's not mathematical. It does not have a definite formula that to work out precisely in this particular way, because there are a lot of moving factors that would happen that you may or may not see coming as at the time that you were making the promises as well. And no matter how much you have think tanks and people who brainstorm on a particular idea and the practical solutions to it, the realities on the ground might completely differ. And I think what has bedeviled the power sector are multiple and multi-pronged in so many ways. That's
like what?
From the incessant litigation that started from so many of the issues that we've had in terms of generating power itself, from hydro, trying to move it to gas because we have excess gas, now trying to move it to even coal if we can, as much as and then wind, and then the solar and whatever. Then we combine all that, and because we are dealing with a large population of about 200 million people, there's so many unserved areas when it comes to power and electricity. And then the places where they are served, we were still paying subsidies of, because electricity is expensive wherever it is, So there were so many issues that the government had to grapple with. Now, I'm not giving an excuse.
I was going to.
No, I'm not giving an excuse as to why That hasn't happened yet, but I think it's a work in progress.
Do you think there is still hope for?
Of course there is. Of course there is. I think we have to be able to make very large investments.
Do you mean the government or the private sector?
You need to bring in private sector. The government has a limit to how much it can fund. Because like I said, when you deal with 200 million people, that's a lot of people.
But there is a budget allocation too.
No. But even the budget allocation, how much does it do really? How much? Compared to, I say this all the time, that I give this example, and this was from a comparison I picked from in 2021 of Brazil, and Nigeria. Almost similar population, maybe a little bit more in terms of Brazil. Brazil has about 300 to 312 million people. Nigeria has about 200 to 230 million people. That's slightly ahead. But largely the same kind of country, rural areas, large population, developing economy and stuff like that. But in 2021, Brazil had a budget of 650 billion US dollars, federal budget. There is a difference between federal government and federation.
Can you clarify for the sake of our audience the difference?
So federal is only the government at a national level. So the federal government of Brazil had a budget of 650 billion US dollars. The federal government. In Nigeria, the same year of 2021, had a federation budget. When I say federation, it includes the federal government, the state government, the local government. That's federation. I'm not talking about only the federal government. Of an equivalent of $98 billion in total. Now, we do not even have enough resources to fund our priorities. We don't.
What would you consider our priorities?
No, whatever the priorities are, health, education, security, those are priorities, right? Those are priorities of every government. The government, the basis of any government is to be able to protect those who cannot protect themselves and do for others what they cannot do for themselves, individual or anything. So those are priorities. What I'm saying is, if you take education, now the average internationally for a pupil in primary school to be educated properly per year is $500. That's the average for a pupil. If you put the size of the entire budget of Kebbi State, for example, into education alone, vis-a-vis the number of pupil age children in Kebbi State, it wouldn't give you $500. The highest state that does that is probably Lagos with about $200 per child in a year. When other countries that you are competing with, because we are dealing with a global economy today, you are dealing with other countries that are spending about $2,000, and those are the average countries like China and the United States. If you go to all the way to like Finland, where they're highly, the education is on the high note, they're talking about $5,000 per child. Now, we're not even looking for that. We're looking at the basic amount of money you need to be able to prepare a child for the economy of 21st century. Going into high school, you need about $200 to $500. No state in Nigeria, with the exception of Lagos, spends on public school children up to an amount of $150 per annum. Now, why am I giving you this example? I'm giving this example so that we have huge problems, right? We have the need to put a lot of resources. Now, our problem is not expenditure problem. Our problem is that we do not even have the resources enough to put it. So in power sector, no, we don't.
We don't have the resources enough.
No, we don't have
Nigerians.
Enough resources to put in. We don't have. How much is our budget really? Forget about all this.
Other ways of funding.
No. I'm not an economic expert yet, but I will tell you this: that of course, if a government wants to raise funding, and that was why when the president came in, he was talking about we need to do 100 trillion naira budget, a $1 trillion budget. That was what he said. I think that's more than 100 trillion naira. But he said the country has to aspire to that kind of level, right? To be able to have enough resources to put in places that are critical, that we need to step up. Housing, for example, we have a deficit. Some say a deficit of 17 million, 15 million, 10 million. Whatever it is, we have housing deficit. That's the bottom line, right? So we have on every critical sector of the human life and the spectrum that you can look at, you know, we need a lot of serious investments with serious money that needs to go in, especially in terms of security, healthcare, education. Those are the investments.
I think electricity should also go hand in hand.
And that is power as well. So absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. So the point is, it's a work in progress. Government is trying its bit.
It's 2 years down the line, though.
Yeah, but you know, I know why a lot of people have issues with, and they blame us, and they have the right to do so. You know, I'm not going to excuse myself because they don't see it as only 2 years of President Ashwaji.
Are you defending the government, though?
Yes, I am. They don't. No, I'm saying people don't see it as 2 years of President Ashwaji. They see it as 10 years of APC. You know, starting from the 8 years of President Buhari, plus the 2 years, and they say, where are we today? Now, of course, power has always been our priority. We've always tried to do something with power.
I think the excuses might be a bit inadequate because we have data to support what the people are saying, the voices of the people watching us, the voices of the common man in Nigeria.
So what are they saying?
They're suffering, they're dying, they're hungry, and...
No, we're talking about electricity. We haven't gotten to the issue of hunger and poverty yet, right?
It ties in, though.
No, so let's take it one step at a time.
Okay.
Right, let's deal with it.
Let's give an instance with healthcare and electricity. I know personally, being someone that has epilepsy, there was a time I was in the hospital and the lights just went off, and there were other machines there that need the electricity. It's crucial to have electricity as a basic necessity for Nigerians. Yes, we deserve it at the bare minimum.
Absolutely, and I think the government is trying its best to do that. It's not going to be something that can happen. I don't think that it would happen automatically in 2 years, but I think it's a work in progress, and I think there's a lot of reports from different people that there has been improvement in electricity supply in different areas, especially, you know, with the categorization of the bands, you know, more expensive, yes, because some sort of subsidy have been removed, but the government is still paying subsidies for that. But yeah, we are not where we want to be. And
how do we get there?
I don't know, really. It's just to keep investing. We have to keep investing, and we have to build private sector to really invest. Unfortunately, we live in a country where a lot of people do not have the purchasing power to pay for adequate electricity. Now, that gap of what people require, what is demanded to give to people, and how we can pay for it is what government have to find out how to do it. We'll have to figure it out somehow. Because it's a big chasm, it's a big gap, it's a lot of money. Investors can only come when they can make profit. They can only make profit when they charge customers. They can only charge customers when the government allows them to charge customers. And then it becomes expensive. When it becomes expensive, it's a problem, you know, and people are going to cry naturally, of course. So the government would have to find a way to put substantial amount of money in terms of not only generation of electricity, not only distribution, which is what we have really prioritized as Gencos and Discos, but the transmission, which is the key, which is the middle equipment between generation and distribution, is what government has held on to because of national security reasons. That we have to be able to generate a lot, because generation is not necessarily the big thing. The biggest thing is lights to come to the sitting rooms and the living rooms and the hospitals, like you talked about, and that is where transmission works into distribution. And I think that's where government we need to invest more. Now, government
we're not getting enough power generated.
No, that's not the issue. Even the ones that we have generated, how much have we actually transmitted and distributed? So I think the point is, if we generate 5,000 megawatts, we should be able to adequately push it out so that people can get 5,000 megawatts, so that we can work on another 5,000 megawatts, another 10,000 megawatts, another 20,000 megawatts. Now, the point is, if you keep generating 10,000 megawatts and you can only utilize or transmit 4,000 megawatts, and then it can only 2,000 megawatts can be distributed, and only 1,000 megawatts can be paid for. So there's a lot of gaps that government is working on. So, but like I said,
that is a lot of megawatts. But I'm sorry to cut you off. We will be back shortly after this break.
Take a seat on the Political Advantage platform for real conversations about Nigeria by Nigerians. Follow our live stream across these channels and learn how it all affects you. Every Sunday, you have a chance to stay ahead by staying engaged and informed. Tune in to the Political Advantage platform to share in real conversations that matter to you.
Welcome back. Before we went on this break, if you are just tuning in, we are doing a deep dive into Renewed Hope agenda. It's been 2 years. What's happening? And we have here with us Barrister Ismail. Thank you again for still staying with us. I just have I have a question here that the people have been talking about lately. The Naira's freefall has reduced the purchasing power of Nigerians, making survival extremely difficult. What responsibility does APC bear for implementing policies that have worsened rather than improved economic conditions?
As a government, as a party in power, of course, we take responsibility for every decision that we have taken that has caused dislocation in people's lives and their homes and their livelihoods. Of course, we take responsibility for that. But those are decisions that needed to be taken. Gain comes through pain. Pain is a lifestyle that we have lived for a long
Should we
period
continue
of
to normalize it though?
No. It's not about normalizing. It's about you're getting somewhere. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. The tunnel has been, yes, you could say it's really dark, at some point, but it's lightening up. Because you could see where you go into. The responsibility of government is to be able to look out dispassionately what the situation of the country is. You and I, or so many other people in the citizenry, might not have the privilege of the information that government has about its books, about its balance sheets, of where it's going, its financial health status, and stuff like that. Now, I can give you an example with fuel subsidy, for example. And I know that fuel subsidy is something that has been a bane of every government in the last, since the military junta. I know that governments have had to deal with labor unions and protests across the country about their ability to remove fuel subsidies because it was drained and then it was making very few people rich and stuff like that. Now, every government since the return of democracy in 1999 have tried to see how it can somehow remove fuel subsidy and lay it off a little bit because of how much of a drain it is on the government purse. At some point, some governments during the PDP had to borrow money to be able to pay subsidies. Now, it's the same thing with the dollar. People have asked, the only way your local currency would be strong is if you produce a lot. If you produce, which means you export. If you export, you earn foreign exchange. If you earn foreign exchange, then your currency becomes valuable to a certain extent. And then you can decide to do what China does, deliberately downplaying their currency at home, the yen, to be able to export more so that they can earn more foreign exchange and they can have trillions of dollars in their foreign reserve or whatever it is that they want to do with it. Now, Nigeria has the potential to be the beacon of production in sub-Saharan Africa and across the world because of our proximity to Europe, our proximity to even America, because the difference between us and the United States is probably the Atlantic Ocean. And of course the rest parts of Africa, because of our huge population, our human capital. We have a lot of it. Very skilled and young population that we can use to produce a lot of things. Arable land, a lot of land mass.
Are there plans to tap into this potential?
Absolutely. So for example, let me give you an example. The president just recently approved the commissioning of road from Sokoto to Badagry. But all people hear about is the road. But behind the road is a plan by the president to make sure that for every town or village that the road passes across, because we're talking about almost what, 400, 700, 800, 1,000 kilometer road, land mass for agriculture, and then because we have to be able to produce what we eat in massive grounds. So what I'm saying is that it all comes down to one thing. Government has to be able to attract investment in critical sectors, real investment with promises of profit and returns. Agriculture is one of it.
Should we depend on it though?
Oh no, every country
Foreign
does.
investments.
No, every country does.
Should we?
Every country does.
Should we?
Yes, absolutely. We have to, because there's nothing we can do. The only other option is for us to have internal investors, which there are. But how many people have the kinds of money that we are looking for in terms of that huge? I keep telling you that we are 200 million people. That is not a joke. That is not a number that you could just decide like that. People keep giving you excuses with Ghana and South Africa. Those are 50 million people, 30 million people, 20 million people in some cases. We are 200 million people. And that's at the last count. Nobody knows how much we are right now as we speak. So what I'm saying is that this is a huge potential. But then it can also be a demographic disaster. So government needs to find the means of serious investment in critical sectors. Serious investment. Government, of course, will put its own money, but how much money government puts in depends largely on how many people are going to bring in their money to be able to support those critical sectors, especially agriculture. Agriculture has the potential of doing a lot.
But doesn't the government the government is tasked with uprooting that potential, isn't it?
Well, that's what it's doing right now.
Effectively?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. The government is doing very well in terms of attracting investors and then talking to them and trying to create an enabling environment where people can actually thrive. It's hard. We have insecurity issues. It's hard because we have purchasing power problems. People cannot afford certain things. It's hard because we have a large unskilled labor force. So there are a lot of issues that are structural in terms of the way we are, right now. But these are all things that government would have to prioritize, make sure we talk about it, move people in that direction, inspire people to be able to acquire this knowledge and the skills.
That was truly insightful. I just want to go ahead and say something. Despite campaign promises of transparency, numerous allegations of nepotism have emerged around key appointments in the Tinubu administration. Do you think we have an ethnic president? And based on these apparent contradictions between APC, are they rhetoric and what are the practices? Can you give more insight to that?
Well, that's a tricky question for me, but I would tell you that the president that I know, and I know him personally, I don't think he is.
You don't think so?
I don't think he's an ethnic bigot. I don't think he is ethnocentric in the sense that he is not a person who would push an ethnic agenda or for any particular reason. I don't see him as that. I've never known him as that, and I've known him for quite a while. I've dealt with him, on issues. We've had discussions. He has sent for me to come and sit down. We've had discussions privately. I've heard his speeches. I've read some of his writings. I've known his stance on so many issues before, even before he became president. I don't see him as a person who is ethnocentric. Now, perception is reality, right? There is a perception out there right now as we speak that this government tilts towards a certain part of the country much more than it does the others. And in politics, perception is a serious issue for us. So it's something that I believe that the president has heard enough. He knows that there are these complaints. Whether they are true or not, it's not for us to try to defend it. It's for us to try to demonstrate that that is not the case.
Does the president have plans for Ariwa?
I'm
it
sure.
seems Ariwa is neglected in a lot of plans, and there's a particular place that there's a lot of development and a lot of plans, just as you mentioned, that there's roads being built from Sokoto to Badagry. There's a particular sector, a particular region in Nigeria where all this is being channeled to. What do you have to say to that?
I'm not sure I understand. First of all,
would you like me to clarify?
No, yeah. Please clarify, because I really don't get what you mean. That does he have a plan for Ariwa? Of course, the president has a plan for the whole country. He has a plan for the whole country. He has focused. In fact, I think even before I was part of his governance subcommittee during the transition period and the political advisory council. And I know for a fact how much he adumbrates on the issue of agriculture, for example, and how much he also talks about the way he wants to create roads all across the country, starting from Sokoto to Badagry, Lagos to Calabar, all the way to Maiduguri, superhighways, Maiduguri / again, through the whole of Northwest back to Sokoto. For every of these developments, he wants to turn the whole country into a construction site, have roads that you can go around the country, build up dams that will be able to supply water for irrigation to farmlands, create massive farmlands in millions of hectares or hundreds of thousands of hectares, so that people will be able to farm, make serious investment in mechanized farming, have hubs of agricultural produce depending on what the soil can produce in every particular area, and secure and introduce serious ranching. Buhari has introduced that, but he's going to advance it. Serious ranching for livestock. We're talking about Ethiopia. I think it was Ethiopia or one other country that I saw recently that has 67 million cows, much more than the population of the country. Now these are the kind of ambition that the president has. So for you to tell me that he does not have plan for the North, I don't think that is entirely the case. I think that, like I said, I think that there are a lot of people right now who are angry, because of the perception of what they see as maybe lopsided appointments or a particular way that the government is going. But I think that the president, if you're talking about president that I know that he has a plan. I know the party APC has a great plan for.
I want you to take yourself a little bit out of being, right now, for the sake of this question, out of being a representative for the government.
I'm not a representative of the government, by the way.
Someone that
I don't work in the government. I'm a member of the party. Yes,
okay.
I'm a high-ranking member of the party.
Taking yourself out of being
a party man.
Okay. Being someone that.
Being a citizen.
Okay. Being Nigerian.
Okay.
And seeing.
That's all I've ever been.
I understand that, but seeing and being and seeing, genuinely seeing the people dying of starvation, the people being killed, the lives being wasted.
No, but
taking yourself out of it.
No.
To look at it. Look at how the citizens would perceive it.
I reject the premise of your question.
You reject the premise?
Yes. I reject the premise of your question, because the premise of your question supposes that all I have been saying is as if I am aloof from what's going on in the country. That's absolutely not correct.
That is not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to ask you,
but the question
for the Nigerian watching this,
yes, absolutely.
For the everyday citizen, for the lower class individuals, for those that have families being kidnapped, for them, it's not just about foreign investors. They don't understand these things.
No.
So bringing it down to their level.
You see, the questions you ask are topic specific, right?
Yes.
And for every topic specific, I give you answers that are topic specific as well, based on the questions you ask.
So there have been rumors of a rift between the president and the vice president. As someone that people consider an insider in APC, can you confirm this rumor, and don't these sort of internal divisions reveal about structural weaknesses in your party?
First of all, I don't talk about rumors, but to categorically answer your question is that no, there's no rift between the two of them.
Okay.
That I know for a fact. So
Okay.
It's baseless. It's a frivolous claim by some people. I don't know why they make that claim. But no, there's no rift between the two of them.
Okay, thank you for that
They
clarification.
have a good working relationship.
I want to go ahead and go to our feedback segment. It's a little thing we do where we ask our audience to just give a little question to the highly to the high individuals that we have, to the guests. So Al-Hati Tijani from Nasarawa State is asking, the recent wave of selective arrest happening in the country, do you believe it's still possible for young leaders to speak the truth and to hold power to account without compromise? Is silence becoming a way to survive in Nigeria?
First of all, I don't know what Al-Hati is saying. I don't know who has been arrested as a result of speaking his or her mind.
Would you like me to clarify
yes, please,
on that?
please. If there are any specific people that have been arrested as a result of speaking their mind or criticizing the government.
There is an 18-year-old girl named Hamdiya Sidi Sharif from Sokoto State. I'm not sure if you've heard of her.
But that's not federal government. I'm sure that's not federal government. I can only speak on behalf of APC at the national level. What happens at the state level, I'm not from Sokoto State. I don't know what transpired. I think it would be unfair for me to jump into a conversation that I am not privy to all the information, and I do not make remarks based off of on social media posts or stories. But if I have the facts of exactly what transpired, and it just looks as if a government at whatever level, be it state, local government or national, trying to stifle opposition or criticism, which is a fundamental right of every citizen in this country to do, that would be unfortunate, and that would be something that I can bring to the attention of people in government, and that would be something that I would totally disagree with publicly.
What of the arrest of an activist called Very Dark Man? His name is Martin Vincent Otse.
Okay, so I don't know about that as well. I don't know all the details, but what I've heard that the EFCC said, and first of all, that's an arrest by the EFCC. It's not an arrest by the police or the DSS. So that's two different things.
Okay.
Under the EFCC Act, I think there's something called cyberbullying. And according to EFCC, that there were petitions from people that felt that Very Dark Man was cyberbullying them. And then they arrested him to investigate that. Now, I don't know the true situation of that. I don't know if he has made any statement on exactly what transpired during the detention. But by and large, I don't know of anyone that has been arrested because he speaks or she speaks her mind. But if there are any, it's something that I, Ismail Ahmad, totally disagree with. I do not agree that any kind of opposition or criticism should be stifled or should be silenced by anyone in government. I think government is for everyone. The fact that we have been given the opportunity to manage the affairs of people does not mean that we should clamp down on them. I don't think this government is onto that trajectory. This president is someone who has thrived on the fact that people need to be free to say their minds, to do as they please, because this is their country after all. I don't see him encouraging that kind of dissent or that kind of elimination of dissent or wanton arrest of criticism. I don't see that happening. But until and unless I have a concrete proof or an excuse or an evidence of that happening, this is just simply a baseless claim.
While we're still bordering on freedom of speech, there are, as a barrister, there's a provision in the Constitution that clearly states out that right of citizens to criticize the government. But the limitations itself is where some people have been having a little bit of a problem with. In particular, for instance, I'm not sure if you know him, but he is someone that's commonly referred to as the ordinary president. He is he's the host and
of Brekete family.
Yes,
he's a personal friend of
yes,
mine.
Yes, yes. So you'd say someone like that constantly encroaches on that subsection and sections in the Constitution. Do you think the limitations should be something that should be a bit more relaxed on, just to allow for citizens in Nigeria to express themselves more and to talk freely and to give more feedback so more people can be held into account.
Can you give me an example of the limitation that was provided for in the Constitution? What limitation are you talking about precisely, so that I can be able to address it properly?
I think for the sake of the question, I will be the ones asking you. so I would...
because I need to be clarified. For me to be able to answer you adequately, I should be able to answer, to understand the question precisely. So because now you're talking about the provision in the Constitution, and those are specific terms. So what exact limitation that the Constitution provided for against freedom of speech that you're worried about?
Well, as someone that is an aspiring law student, you are my senior by far as a barrister, so you know more than me. So I would just for the sake of time, unfortunately, as we're rounding up, I definitely do not want this interview to end. But just for the sake of the interview, I want to go ahead and ask you, how do you reconcile your personal political principles with the administration's governance record? So with many Nigerians viewing have a worsened quality of life in general for most Nigerians over the past few years. Are you proud of your party's record after 2 years?
That's a gotcha question, right? You're trying to get it's a gotcha question. I am proud of what my party is trying to achieve. I am not yet happy of where we are as a country and as a people. I think there is room for improvement. I think there are things that we could have done a little bit differently or better. But I think the intention behind every action and every policy that this administration and the administration before it have done was with the sincerity of delivering governance to the people in the best way possible. Sometimes the pathway that gets us to the El Dorado differs. We may disagree on the pathway. Even within the party, we have our disagreements on how we get to a certain place. Some would agree that it is better to drive. Some would say it's better to fly. Some would say it's better to trek. But ultimately, we all want to reach the same destination, which is to give people the freedom to be able to aspire and get themselves up by their bootstraps and create an enabling environment where people can thrive and have purchasing power and have good quality life. We are not there yet. It's a work in progress. My party has tried as much as possible to be rid of the things that have vestiges that have held this country back, like a cesspit of corruption, of where people become leeches around subsidies of either the foreign exchange or fuel, for example, and create this opportunity for millions of young people to be able to do something different with their lives and grow in a way that we believe would be of quality to them and quality to the country. But there's room for improvement, and I agree that people are not happy. But at least some understand it is our job to make sure they understand exactly where we're going and try as much as possible to, from conception to execution of every policy of government, that we communicate transparently to the people and tell them exactly what we're trying to do. And then it's not only for the benefit of few people or for some people who are just opportune to be in the positions of authority. And I think once we can do that, people can endure and follow you through.
That is it for today. Thank you for tuning into the PAP Show, where we'll keep shaking more tables. Don't forget to use your voice, as it is your power. Until next time, I'm Hadiza Manafash.